Hi, my name is Leigh Goodwin. I'm a member of the New Horizon Church Ministry team, and it's my privilege today to share a devotion with you. And I'm based that devotion on the theme of the waiting father. You know, if we're parents, we go through quite a change in our relationship with our children over the years. When they are babies, they're so dependent upon us. They're crying out for us to give them attention, to cuddle them, to love them, to nurture them. They always want to be with us. They feel secure in our presence, and they want us to know that we're there around for them. And then as they get older, especially when they get into adolescence and then young adulthood, the relationship almost seems to turn the other way around, where we want to be with them, but they're pushing us away. It feels like that they feel it's uncool now to have parents always around. They don't want our input anymore. They don't want our guidance anymore. They don't want to necessarily be doing the things that we're doing anymore. They want to be doing their own things. They want to be off with their friends. And if we try and interfere too much, then they feel that we don't trust them, that we're suffocating them with our love, and we need to release them more, to do their own thing, to find their own identity and be independent. And that can be quite painful and disappointing for us as parents to go through that transition. And if we do find that difficult, then let me remind you that that's how God as a father is with us. That so often we sideline him to the wings of our lives, the fringes of our lives. That so often we will only turn to God as our Father when we need him. When most of the time we're just getting on with life and we're not so reliant on God. We're not so close to God. We're busy. And then we include God when we perhaps have that great need or crisis going on. In Isaiah 53:18, it says, "So the Lord must wait for you to come to him, so he can show you his love and compassion. For the Lord is a faithful God. Blessed are those who trust in his help." Our Heavenly Father could always be intervening in our lives, because actually he really does know what is best for us, and he really has the authority to make things happen that are great for our lives. However, he does not force his love and his care upon us. Rather, he chooses to wait for us to approach him, to request his help. Once we invite God into our lives and into our situations, then God can release his compassionate favour. In one sense, God is not bound or limited by what he does, but he's rather chosen to be that waiting father, even though it requires him to be incredibly patient and long-suffering with us. We find the other biblical image of a waiting father in the very potent story of the lost son that we find in Luke 15:11-32. Many Bible preachers refer to it as the parable of the prodigal son. And behind me, you will see a picture on the screen, and I just want to draw your attention to it right now. And the painting is that of the Dutch master Rembrandt, one that he painted right towards the end of his life, of this story of the parable of the lost son. And many art critics will believe that it's probably the best painting that Rembrandt achieved in his career. And you can actually find this painting in the world famous Heritage Museum, the Hermitage Museum that is in St. Petersburg, Russia, that incredible city of culture in Russia. So in the picture behind, let me just draw your attention to some of the details that Rembrandt has captured for us of the Bible story. First of all, we're drawn to the prodigal son, the young man that's down on his knees, bowed down with shame and the guilt and the humiliation that he felt of wasting so much of his life and potential and having to return home with that shame. Then stood over him, but very gently. Note the posture of the father, and it's a posture of love. He's stooping over his son, almost in a covering, protective, nurturing way towards his son. And the hands are gentle hands, authoritative hands, but gentle hands, gently placed on the son to be reassuring. In contrast, look at the other key figure in the story and in the picture. Stood to one side, very deliberately depicted to one side, is the older brother. And he stood very upright, erect, giving an air of superiority, giving an air of being above the situation. And he wants to be distant. He's unhappy. He's angry about the situation that's unfolding in front of him. And you kind of sense that judgmental spirit, that superior spirit in his posture. Because it feels like he's looking down on the father and his younger brother. And his hands are held in a way, clenched to the front of him together, folded together as if he's not pleased. He's very displeased with this situation. And there's this air of judgment upon the older brother. And it brings out the story that Jesus told. We know that the youngest son wasted his inheritance, and he went off to a far country, and he quickly got through all the money that his father had given him. And once his money ran out, his friends ran out, and then he ended up in a place of humiliation, where it says he came to his senses and started to think once again about his father and his home life that he'd left behind. Probably while he got all the money and the friends and all the pleasurable lifestyle, he probably never gave his father one second thought. But now he's at rock bottom. He starts to think of his father again. How many times has that happened to us, that we start to think of God as Father when actually we're in a low place and we need him again? It was only when the son was in this place of humiliating shame and deprivation that he thinks again of his father, and he goes back home. And in contrast, as little as the son has perhaps thought of the father has been thinking of his son every day he's been away. And it says in the story of Jesus that the father was looking out, waiting for his son to return. And he looks out one day and he sees the son on the horizon coming back, because he's expecting him to come back. And he runs out to meet him and makes the journey home easier for him. He doesn't let the son walk back on his own, but he takes those last steps home with him, showing his love, showing his acceptance, turning around the shame that the son was feeling. He ran to his son, he embraced his son to make the journey home one of acceptance rather than isolation and shame. Our Father is just so grace-filled. Even when we mess up and when we fail, if we take an initial step to acknowledge him and our need of him, God responds to us with immense love. I share this devotion with you to encourage you to never leave your Heavenly Father sidelined from influencing your life and your destiny. I share this devotion with all of us who are parents and nurturers. And if you're struggling in your relationship with your children, then make sure that if you're the parent in this situation, that you don't silo this situation, this relationship, as irreparable and hopeless. Stay waiting for the door to be opened again. It might open sooner than you thought. It might be there. When it opens, don't tell them what they've done wrong. Rather, express your forgiveness and willingness to take steps towards them. Be reminded of God as the waiting Father and how patient he has been to show you the love down the years.